so that we can have like an idea of it.
Okay.
Yes, starting.
You can wait a while. So I guess we should start now.
Okay.
Rajdan, okay?
Let's start now. Saksham, if you could like ask the people in the group to send it in the class WhatsApp groups so that people who need a reminder can like join in at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can start.
yeah.
Okay, so shall I go on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I heartily welcome you all in this exclusive panel discussion by EBSB titled Entertainment Through Times. Entertainment, it has become so. Entertainment has become an important part of our life. But nowadays, it has also become more of frenzied. Like music has different style to please audiences all over. Then movies dazzle people with special effects. Our entertainment choices have also been changing, and so is the entertainment which stays for the decade. Like all forms of media will continue to evolve for the future to become the mainstay of the decade. So this is we'll be discussing with all the panelists over here. Let me introduce the panelists. We have Dr. Auditya Sharma, uh, Assistant Professor of Physics at IISc Bhopal. Dr. Madhumita Mukherjee, Senior Scientific Officer at IISc Bhopal. Dr. Sachin Dev Verma, Assistant Professor of Chemistry. And Rushdoon Ahmed and me, Shreya Pandit, as student panelists from Team EBSB. So to move on, we shall be focusing like the change which has taken place in the entertainment world and what entertainment means to people. Like it isn't just for joy or just for sake of just time pass or something, but it can be also something which encourages us, which fills in confidence in us. So I shall start with the question about what entertainment means to you. So Aditya sir,
Okay.
can you please go
So
on?
let me start by first of all saying thank you to Team EBSB for organizing this event. I'm particularly glad to be associated with this event because it's a chance to catch up with all our students with whom we have been missing for a few months now, given the extraordinary circumstances that we are in. So this is an excellent way to reach out to everybody. I hope wherever you are, I mean, or whoever is following is doing well and in your own little circumstances. And so we were told that this could be a sort of a light-hearted topic is chosen, completely non-controversial, and you don't have to come prepared. Just you come talk about what
Yes.
entertainment means to you, and a topic which is close to everybody's heart, and they connect to this word entertainment in their own way, right? So for me, entertainment is just really how would you like to spend time if nobody is forcing you to do some particular thing? What would you do, right? So it depends on my mood, of course. It could be just pick up some random book. I'm a big fan of PG Woodhouse. How many of you
Oh,
know?
yes.
I would be happy to read
Yes,
a book
sir.
by PG Woodhouse, or you know go over the entire Mahabharat series. So the advantage of living in today is that the whole of history is at your fingertips, right? So you don't have to be caught in 2020. You can just go back into the distant past and connect to what entertainment was then. Or I listen to music. I like to listen to anything very melodious, right? That would be a basic requirement, I think. Right? I can spend hours just listening and getting immersed in music. I also like to play an instrument. I play the violin, or
Yes.
like to spend time with my kids, playing games. Tom and Jerry, I'm a big fan of. In the advertisement, I saw this EBSB Entertainment Through the Ages. They had this advertisement which was sort of Bollywood based, and it was a bit intimidating for me. But luckily, we can, yeah, we have the freedom to define entertainment in our own way and veer the discussion in whatever direction we want. Yeah, so that's broadly how I want to start off, and I'll pass it on to other people now.
Yes, sir. Surely. Even I'm starting with Mahabharat again now.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Yes, I have watched it the whole B.R. Chopra version at least twice in full.
Yeah. It's actually very inspiring, and like the knowledge points we get.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes it
So
feels
my
very good.
my current goal is to actually to read the original in Sanskrit, 100,000 verses before I die. That's my goal.
Yes.
Yeah, I have acquired the full original edition, and it's adorning my shelf. But that's as far as I've got so far.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Madhumita ma'am?
Yeah, Shreya, firstly, I thank the EBSB team for having me on this panel, and I look really forward to this discussion. So, entertainment, as you asked, entertainment is very subjective, right? It's very relative. What entertainment is to me might not be entertainment to you. Also, entertainment varies from age. Like, something which was entertaining when I was in my teens might not be entertaining to me anymore now.
Yes.
And also, it depends upon what I want to do at a certain part of the day. It also depends upon my mood. So, as a kid, so I'll just say how entertainment has changed for me. So, as a kid, Doordarshan was one of the major sources of entertainment.
Yes.
You will see. And I think people of our Doordarshan invaded our homes with authority. Okay, and I think all of us remember, the logo of Doordarshan with the tune of Doordarshan with the logo, coming from that blurred background and all. And Sunday mornings used to be magical with Mowgli and Tailspin and Ek Do Teen Char and a couple of serials. Wednesdays would be entertaining because we would study for extra hours because we could watch Chitrahar only then, and there was Bharat Ek Coach. There were a lot of entertaining programs then. But if I come today, we have seen the transformation from Doordarshan to this digital era. So now TV no longer entertains me, to be very frank. So these days, I think baking a cake for my family is entertainment for me. Watering my garden, seeing the plants and the vegetables grow is entertainment for me. Playing with
Yeah.
my kids or spending time with them is entertainment for me. If I can catch on, even a chapter on any of the Paulo Coelho books, I'm a huge fan of his books. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
So it's that.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Even Panchatantra, I used to enjoy when I was smaller. I used to.
Absolutely. Panchatantra was there. There were a lot of entertaining serials actually.
Yes,
There was
ma'am.
a serial called Karamchand, remember? That was also
Yeah.
there were a host of them, and we used, what was the magic? The most, the nicest part was that, that wait for one entire week to watch another episode of Mowgli. Now, when my kids watch Jungle Book, they just say, "Mama, Mama, can I watch one more episode?" At times they said yes, at times they said no. But then, I think they will never. That charm is lost. They can just binge watch,
Mm.
the serials
Yes,
for
ma'am.
7 days or 10 days and just finish off with it, which we did for months. So
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
it's the problem of plenty today.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Sachin, sir?
So first of all, I would like to thank you, Team ESP, for inviting us in this panel and uh, bringing in the old memories of our childhood and how we used to entertain ourselves. As Madhumita ji said that entertainment is different for different person. Some people like watching movies, entertaining. Others may not like those kind of movies, entertaining, but different set of movies like art movies. I'm more towards music, so I listen to music since childhood. When the Doordarshan was there in the morning, there used to be classical music playing in the background when my father would turn on the TV in the morning, and then there. Uh, in the evening, it was the Mile Sur Mera Tumhara. All the family
Yes.
members will sit in front of TV waiting for the song to come. And then over the time, Doordarshan has also changed this kind of serials that we used to watch, like Hum Log, Neem Ka Ped, Mirza Ghalib. That time, yeah, Bunyad, and a lot of serials were not like today's Saas Bahu serials. There were a
Yes.
lot of woman-centric serials where the woman protagonist was shown in a very strong
Yes.
character, like Arohan, where women were in Indian Navy, and Udan, there was a serial where woman was an IPS officer.
Yes.
So over
Yes.
the time, you can see how the serials have changed from that classic. Very powerful woman-centric roles to now
Yes.
Saas Bahu serials and the movies we used to watch a lot of movies. Of course, Doordarshan was the main source, but for new release movies, we used to have this VCP rented on for full night, 4 movies in a row, awake, awake whole night, and then we used to play card games at home like chess or carom, indoor games, I Spy You, and there was one Langdi where we
Yes.
draw some squares and hop on one leg and then two legs. And so all these things we have done in the childhood, and then over times it has changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
And so I tend towards music when I work also, even when I'm analyzing the data. I used to listen to music or working in the lab with lasers, aligning the setups, tweaking mirrors, putting my headphone on and listening to classical music. That keeps me focused on the. So I listen music for entertainment when I have free time as well as when I'm working. So different kind of music for both the time. One is to get more focused and other to just chill and relax.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, that's about
It is
it.
true that like the meaning of entertainment and it has changed all over. Even the forms of entertainment has changed. But
Yeah.
there is one thing that some people are unaware of the other forms, which could be interesting for them too, but they don't know about it. So
Yeah.
this
So
is the
I
place we can
think,
know about it. Like we can get to know it about everything.
yeah, so thank you, first of all, to all our panelists for joining us here. Like, very warm welcome again, and thank you for sharing your experience. I do agree with all of you
Yes.
when you say that the sense of entertainment through the times has changed with our own age and experience, and like a variety of other factors growing in through like how the digital age is coming and technology has changed the world. As Madhumita ma'am was saying some moments ago, like binge watching itself has become like new things today. And yeah, and that is like a different, that's the difference, right? So I mean, that's the difference times and technology has brought to us. Something that was dear to like our professors and like doctors who are sitting over here, who used to wait patiently for an episode every week, had that different charm. And the charm is different for people of our age today who are like binge watching entire series at one go totally. I do agree when Sachin sir talks about serials that had women centric roles like that in Uran. There has been a lot of talk in recent times saying that movies, particularly of the Bollywood era of your times, when y'all were of our age probably, were very, very patriarchal in nature, in the sense that there was always that rich boy, poor girl, the poor girl, like the rich boy, the kind of a stereotypical story that Bollywood keeps on rolling, and used to be very disrespectful in a lot of ways, and woman-centric roles per se were probably not missing from mainstream cinema, as it used to be more like commercial in nature at that point of time, which is probably, I think, changing to some extent if we see movies like Mirja right now coming in like our times. But yeah, there were a lot of serials at that point of time that had strong women roles. I do remember an interview of Ratna Patak Shah. She's like a noted television and a movie actress, and she was talking about this very thing that theater during the 1980s and 90s had these strong female characters that they used to particularly play, and like that is really interesting to even hear from you guys. And even like Auditya sir, when he talked about Ramayan and how he would like really love to watch Ramayan over times, and I think like Ramayan did come back for like an entire streaming on television just a few days back. What brought a lot of nostalgic memories among all of us here, like reuniting children and parents and grandparents and all. So like the second topic of discussion that I would like to throw in front of the panel, esteemed panel over here, is that have you heard about like a lot of scientists and researchers, and like y'all are esteemed researchers in your own departments? Einstein played the violin, or some people preferred like Art Feynman used to play the bongos or the drums. There've been researchers who have taken inspiration from this like wanted activity that relaxes their mind, that probably helps them concentrate more, or like increase their mind power in that particular like area of research, whatever or work you're doing. So what is like that go-to activity that you all feel that you all have that brings out the best in you, and has that changed with age and experience? Madhumita ma'am?
So, Rushdoon, so you said about patriarchal, like, movies and all. So, if you start off with Bollywood from the 50s or the 60s, you had movies like Mother India and Pakiza, which were very female centric. Okay, somewhere when the action movie started, I think women were converted into mere uh, showpieces, kind of, with very so meaty roles were not given to them, and the trend is changing now, that's for sure. uh, but it's not that in the past there were no women centric roles. There were. I think the appreciation amongst the audience has increased now because people want more logical and intelligent movies now. People prefer less of crappy movies now. And I think also people are preferring. So previously there was a huge boundary between mainstream and parallel movies, which is kind of blurring now. So
I think there are different audiences for these content. Like previously, there used to be just that cinema-centric going like audience. Now we've got streams like Netflix and all that has brought about like an entire change of content.
That has brought about an entire change in content, right? And people can basically pick and choose what they want. That helps. Yeah, and the other thing that helps me, irrespective of whether I was a child, whether I was a teenager, whether it's music. So I have literally grown up listening to Lataji songs with music
Yes.
experts, Salit Chaudhary, Madan Mohan, or SD Burman. So my father was a huge fan of, songs of Bollywood of that age. So I have literally grown up listening to those songs. So even now, when I listen to those songs, I think they have a very calming and, no matter what my mood is, it just any kind of music.
All the epic artists, like everybody is just amazing.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
there is a different charm on those like retro music. If we talk about of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, a lot of beautiful musicians, Mohammed Rafi and R.D. Burman sir and Manna Dey, and a huge number of people. So yeah, continuing with Sachin sir.
So, as Madhumita ma'am said that during when we were young, there were very limited options. We did not have a lot of TV channels. Doordarshan was the only channel. That was also not 24 hours. It was only the daytime. So only few hours, few serials, and we used to wait for a whole week for the next episode. And very few serials were running at that time. Most of them were having very strong character, whether male protagonist or female protagonist. But over the time, I have seen since the Kabhi Saas Kabhi Bahu or something of those lines that Meher serial has come in, then whole serial industry has jumped into Saas Bahu serials, and in those serials, women are shown like wearing all the makeups and jewelry and sleeping like that and doing nothing, just household drama with there will be a negative woman character who wants to spoil the marriage of somebody and the husband. So in our time, we used to watch those kind of series like Shanti. Shanti was a Mandra Vedi serial. She was a young journalist, aspiring journalist, who went on against two very powerful businessmen and take them down on a criminal case. Just one example, and there were another serial called Aurat, where one woman, against her family wish, goes for higher studies and becomes a very successful lawyer. So all these middle class family struggles were portrayed in those serials.
There
You
was
can
some.
relate to that. We used to be able to relate to those characters, those household structures and everything. Those serials were more, I would say, close to the existing society. Today's serials are way far from what we are. They are just total fiction kind of serials.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
And
the
the movies,
Ikatapur effect.
yeah, Ek Taka Pura Hai. I said that, just Kabhi Saas Thi Kabhi Bahu Thi or something. So since then, I have stopped watching serials. Frankly speaking, I haven't watched any serials since. And my to-go activity is, I don't have any that sort of thing. But yes, when I am frustrated with anything, even if it is a political situation or a personal situation, I exert my frustration in words. So I will go write some poetry or something of that sort. So
That's
that's my relieving mechanism. Otherwise, music is always there. I'm always listening music, whether cooking or uh, working. So
Yes,
music is a
sir.
big part.
We
definitely.
said about it. People are like earlier, people used to find themselves in the serials. Now it's like people live in the fictional world. People live in the dreams
Yeah.
more than the present.
Yeah,
There was another very strong female-oriented character, Rajini, if you remember. Remember?
Rajni, I
Rajini.
don't remember. Actually, we had only DD National. There were in metro cities there were DD2 or DD Metro. DD
Yeah,
Metro has a lot of other serials which we DD National people would not be able to watch. So
Okay, so Rushdoon, so you asked about you mentioned Feynman and all these physicists and scientists who often had a musical connection, right? So while Einstein, in
Yeah,
fact, said that if he hadn't become a physicist, I think his number two option would have been to become a violinist,
wildness.
right? And so he always had that as a hobby. There are lots of other engineers and scientists whose mainstay activities are very strongly cerebral type of activity, but they have a very strong connection to music. And so there is a reason for this, and one reason is that if you want to become good at an instrument, it requires you have to keep on accumulating very, very tiny epsilon bits of improvement over time, right? So you invariably will make a lot of noise, and impossible to hear kind of sounds will emanate from your instrument when you're trying it out. But then you have to stick with it, and there's a certain discipline associated with it, and which is also true with carrying out research, right? So if you're able to bring in that type of discipline over very long time scales, and then suddenly you start seeing certain beautiful patterns, right? And then your confidence grows up, and then you think that this is worth the effort, right? And then these are sort of complementary parts of your brain in some sense. On the one hand, you're doing science, which is a very logical activity, and then there is music, which is taking which has a connection to a different part of your brain, and they can very nicely complement with each other. And in addition, there is also this business of relaxation, right? I mean, so one thing is to try to master an art form and to become somebody who can create the art, and the other is to become an appreciator of art, which itself is an art form, by the way, right? So to become a good listener, you need to have put in a lot of sadhana, as we would call it, to become somebody who's able to get to the nuances, not even nuances in the sense of being a critic, right? You don't have to actually understand it, you don't have to intellectualize it, but still there are shallow listeners and there are deep listeners. Deep listeners may actually know nothing of the rhythm involved or the raga involved, right? But still their experience of the music or the art form, right? It's even more general. It does not have to be only music. Any art form is for the connoisseur, for somebody who is just an appreciator, who's able to distinguish between the chaff from the grain, so to speak. Not in the way of being a critic per se, right? They don't have to be able to write a long article, discriminating between this and that, but they can immediately, instantly tell that this is a deeper form of art, which is, which has gone through more, sadhana, or more closer to perfection than this, and so on. That itself is an art form. And the other thing is, what is, high art is something which reveals, deeper and deeper layers, right? If you go back to it, you'll unearth something new. Every time you come back to it, there's something fresh which you can pull out. And that's why some of these timeless classics, like for example the Mahabharata, I said, it's written by somebody whose vision was very, very deep, right? It's not just it's not a shallow piece of drama between like two individuals playing out with half-baked thought of the artist who's just in a hurry to publish and make money out of it. That was not the intent at all, right? It goes into the soul of the human mind. It pulls out for you all the amazing positive qualities in the mind, but also the most terrible things that are real, right? So they all have to be brought out and shown to you. And it's not just showing all the sides of the human psyche, but also providing a path for you to lift yourself, right? Ultimately, that's what is the best part of an art form, is if it can take you from a low and take you from a low and bring you to a high, right? And lift you out of difficult phases. If you listen to certain kinds of music, all your problems are solved. All you have to do is just put your earphones on, and then that's it, right? I mean, like Dr. Sachin said, I also like to keep on listening to music when I'm working, right? Because it helps me focus, and particularly most of the time it's some form of Carnatic music, which is where my training is. But I am able to connect to anything very melodious, and then I'm actually hooked to it for some time. And then I also like to go to things which reveal for me newer and newer aspects, right? So that's how I classify art as something very deep. If every time I go back to it, I feel like somebody who's picking pebbles on the side of the ocean or whatever. There's so much to do, right? There's not enough time, and within a small narrow thing. I'm not saying that there is so much to do because there is so much choice. Not in the sense of year 2020, I mean, like, so we are flooded with choice. That's another topic which I wanted to talk about, which is that the challenge for today is, are you able to make good choices, right? I mean, in the past, like Dr. Madhumita was saying, Doordarshan came to you, you had to wait for one whole week to come back and connect to it. If it was a terrible show, which can of course happen, you have one whole week to recover from it. But now, you go into this binge watching mode and you just want to finish it. So you may actually end up wasting 10 hours watching something completely nonsensical. You are not able to cut off from this part. And a lot of us do this. Actually, we waste a lot of time because we are unable to make good choices. So the key to surviving in 2020 is, are you able to make good choice? Because choice is just so much. So the problem of the plenty, like she was saying, so the problem of the plenty can be used in a nice way, and you can elevate yourself, or you can go to the dogs, so to speak. Okay, I'll stop here. You can.
That's a brilliant point when you talk about like how one can selectively choose a better option and often goes with what its lesser instinct would be at that point of time. Instinct would be at that point of time, which probably is like a lesser option, lesser viable option. And that's a really interesting point. And another point you mentioned, which really intrigued me, was how you talked about the relation of commerciality with that of art or any form of entertainment, and how it has changed over the times, how like market behavior and capitalism per se has like taken over the marketing sphere of entertainment and made it more prototypical in a lot of globalization, in fact. So that makes me think of a very interesting proposition here. What would you think exactly would be like the correlation between like art and science? Because like as you all mentioned over there, that like there is some form of entertainment, there is some form of art that like really helps you in like moving forward and doing your activity better. But to some people, like social sciences or that particular art is a form of science because they're methodically thinking it in that sense. Do you buy into that statement, or do you think that such terminologies like social sciences or terming those particular forms of art as science is a misnomer per se? Yes, Sachin sir.
So I had a very heated discussion with one of my friend who is a social scientist. I was of the opinion that why it is called a science at all. It is a uh, it's not really a science. Then she told me that when we analyze society using some set of rules, then it is not very different from what you guys do in physics. You have certain rules, and you if something follows within that set of parameter, then you classify it as something else. And other element, if it is if it is falling under different classifications, then you put it in a different table. So that's what they do in social science. They are using very well defined methods to study society. So that's their argument, and I kind of agreed to that, because whenever you are doing some systematic study, ruling out outliers and making it more coherent, classifying different sets of the society, it's not very different to what we do in science. So I would buy that argument of, but that's only for social science, not other sciences.
Yeah, like not music or
Uh,
other.
for example, cooking, I would say it is still very similar to what chemistry is, organic chemistry. You have
Yeah.
to decide how much proportion of spices to go in, or should be the temperature, and which spice to be added in which sequence. So I would still think that cooking is very similar to organics in science. So cooking would also be uh, considered as science in my opinion. But different people may have different opinions. So
Like I mean Yeah, there is that, and obviously there's also a lot more if you talk about sci-fi novels or how science fiction per se has come in, right? That also requires imagination. Physics also requires imagination, intuition. I may be wrong here because I'm generally like just a student here. So you may able to give us like a more better idea. Uh, Aditya sir, if you want to say something.
Yeah. So yes. So you ask us whether we should call some of these arts as science, but I would start by saying that it's a good philosophy to take your science itself as an art form, right?
Yes.
Right. So like a lot of the times, what we are doing in our own field, although I work in a hard science, which is physics, but it's really you tap into your intuition, which is not really a logical part, which comes from some part of you which is completely crazy. But then the science part of it is where you pull out all this insights, which can be very random, which can be completely amethodical, but then you put it in a structured way. You collect ideas and then you test them, right? So I think this is where probably people have a difficulty in calling some of these other fields as sciences, because they're unable to make claims